Something is moving in the economy right now, and the window to act on it is closing fast. We are already well into 2026, and multiple industries have already announced cost adjustments for the first quarter of this year. Metal and manufacturing inputs are trending upward. Trade policy changes that have been sitting in the pipeline are now taking effect. And what that means practically is this: the items you rely on for preparedness are going to cost more. Some of them are already getting harder to source on short notice. Today I am walking you through 8 essential categories that you need to look at before March 15th. Not because something dramatic happens on March 16th, but because that is roughly when the first wave of Q1 cost increases starts hitting at the shelf level. These categories were selected based on real supply chain signals, material cost trends, and policy adjustments that do not show up in mainstream coverage until after prices have already moved. If you are watching this before March 15th, you have a real opportunity in front of you. Let us use it. If this is your first time on Prepper Mind, welcome. My focus here is practical emergency preparedness. No doom scrolling, no fear-mongering, just actionable steps that help you stay ahead of disruptions before most people even realize they are coming. The goal is always the same. When something goes sideways, you are already positioned rather than scrambling. Before we get into the list, I want to mention that enrollment for our full preparedness program, the Prepper's Roadmap, is open for a limited window right now. This program walks you through a complete and practical system covering water, food, power, communication, and medical readiness. Thousands of people have used it to build a real plan, not just a collection of gear they picked up in a panic. I have put together the biggest discount and the strongest bonus package I have ever offered for this current enrollment window. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. If you missed the enrollment window, grab my free Start Preparing Survival Guide linked below. That will give you a solid foundation to start from right away. Now let us talk about what is actually happening in the economy. We are moving into a stretch where global demand is colliding with domestic manufacturing constraints and new trade adjustments. Tariff updates targeting metals, vehicle components, and various manufacturing inputs are working through the system right now. You do not need to memorize the policy details. What matters is this: when costs rise at the factory level, they always reach the consumer a few weeks to a few months later. The categories I'm about to cover are already showing early tightening. Acting before March 15th puts you ahead of that. Item 1. Water storage, filtration, and purification systems. Water comes first on this list for a simple reason. It is the resource that disappears the fastest and creates the most immediate crisis when it is gone. In almost every emergency scenario, whether it is infrastructure failure, a natural disaster, or a supply chain disruption, water is the first thing that becomes a serious problem. And most households are dramatically underprepared in this area. Here is the specific concern right now. The best filtration systems on the market depend heavily on foreign manufactured components, specialized filter membranes, plastic housings, ultraviolet treatment elements. Any trade disruption or material cost increase can move prices on these products quickly, and replacement filter cartridges tend to sell out before the filter units themselves. What you want to be picking up before March 15th, storage containers in multiple sizes so you have flexibility for different scenarios, gravity-fed filtration systems for whole household water processing, countertop filters for daily drinking water, replacement cartridges for whatever system you already own, portable personal filters for go bags and vehicle kits, and purification tablets as a lightweight backup layer. A basic planning target is 1 gallon of water per person per day for a minimum of 2 weeks. If you have not hit that number yet, this is your priority. There is no version of a preparedness plan where water gets deprioritized. Think of your water supply the same way you think about your emergency fund. You hope you never need to draw on it, but having it there changes everything about how you navigate a crisis. And unlike money sitting in a savings account, your water supply is not going to lose value to inflation. It is just there, ready, doing exactly what you need it to do. Here is a practical starting approach. Pick up 2 or 3 large storage containers this week. They do not have to be the most expensive option on the shelf. A clean food-grade container with a secure lid is what you need. Then add a gravity-fed filter unit and 2 replacement cartridges. That one purchase sets up your household for basic water resilience at a cost that most people spend on a single restaurant dinner. From a purely financial standpoint, water storage containers and quality filtration systems are not getting cheaper. The supply chains that produce them are under real pressure right now. Getting what you need before mid-March is simply the smart timing move. Start with water. Build from there. Every other category on this list becomes more manageable once your water situation is handled. Item 2. Canned goods, shelf-stable staples, and bulk pantry items. Food costs are not heading downward. They have not been for several years now, and the underlying conditions are not resolving. Input costs across agriculture, including fertilizer prices and fuel for transportation, are elevated. Processing labor costs are up. Global supply instability is ongoing. The direction of travel here is clear, and the March 15th deadline makes this one of the most time-sensitive items on the list. What to focus your shopping on? Canned proteins, including meats, fish, and beans as your calorie-dense foundation. Canned soups for variety and ease. Rice, oats, and pasta in bulk because they are calorie efficient and store for years without any special handling. Cooking oils, salt, and sugar because these are foundational ingredients that most people forget about until they run out. Canned vegetables for nutritional coverage, and long-term shelf-stable meal options for variety and higher calorie density when you need it. The reason a well-stocked pantry is one of the smartest moves you can make right now is that it returns value to you in multiple ways simultaneously. You are spending money you were going to spend anyway, just earlier and at lower prices. You build a buffer against both shortages and future price spikes. And you rotate through your supply as part of your normal cooking routine, which means nothing expires, nothing goes to waste. You are not storing food indefinitely in a bunker. You are just keeping a deeper inventory of what you already use. A useful mental frame. Think of your pantry like a small warehouse with a rotating stock. What comes off the shelf gets replaced. What you put in now costs less than what you will put in 6 months from now. That spread is real money saved over time. Start with a 2-week supply if you are building from scratch. Work toward 90 days as your longer-term target. You do not have to get there in one shopping trip. 2 or 3 extra canned items per grocery run adds up quickly over a few weeks. One thing that is worth doing right now is a pantry audit. Go through what you actually have, figure out what you are genuinely short on, and build a targeted shopping list from there. Most people discover they have plenty of some things and almost nothing of others. Knowing your actual gaps is more useful than buying randomly. Food is one of those categories where acting early costs you nothing, and acting late costs you real money. Move on this one before March 15th. Item 3. Vehicle maintenance supplies and spare parts. Whether you drive a compact car or a full-size truck, your vehicle is connected to a global supply chain that is under real pressure right now. Section 232 tariff adjustments, targeting truck parts and heavy-duty vehicle components, are sending ripple effects through the entire automotive parts ecosystem. What that means at the practical level is that small, inexpensive parts that keep everyday vehicles running are heading for price increases across the board. What to pick up before March 15th? Oil filters for your next 2 to 3 oil changes, wiper blades to replace what is currently on your vehicle, brake pads if yours are due for replacement within the next year, belts and hoses if your vehicle is older or has higher mileage, bulbs and fuses as a basic backup kit, spark plugs if your service interval is approaching, and fluids and additives including coolant, brake fluid, and power steering fluid. These items are genuinely inexpensive right now, easy to store in a garage or storage bin, and absolutely critical for keeping your vehicle operational when supply chains tighten. Think about what your vehicle actually represents in a preparedness context. It is not just transportation, it is your evacuation capability, your resupply capability, and your access to medical care or emergency resources if something goes wrong. Treating your vehicle like a piece of mission-critical equipment means you maintain it on your schedule rather than being forced to deal with failures and high prices at the worst possible moment. This is also worth thinking about from a cost perspective. A set of oil filters, a pair of wiper blades, and a basic fluids kit for most standard vehicles runs somewhere between $80 and $150 depending on what you drive. That same kit in 6 to 12 months may cost noticeably more. The savings are real even though the dollar amounts seem small. One practical tip: pull out your vehicle owner's manual and look at the recommended service intervals for your car or truck. Note what is coming up in the next 12 months. Buy those parts now, then store them somewhere dry and accessible. When the service date arrives, you already have everything you need, and you paid the lower price for it. Vehicles fail at inconvenient times under the best circumstances. In a disruption scenario, where parts are harder to get and prices have moved up, a basic stock of maintenance supplies for your specific vehicle is one of the most underrated and high-value items in your preparedness setup. Nominee Item 4. Emergency power and lighting. The power grid is under sustained and growing pressure. Extreme weather events are increasing in both frequency and intensity, and the infrastructure in most regions was not designed for the current load demands being placed on it. Battery and electronic component costs are also moving upward in 2026, which means the equipment that helps you manage a power outage is going to cost more as the year progresses. What to stock up on before March 15th. LED lanterns with rechargeable or replaceable batteries for area lighting during outages. Quality headlamps that keep your hands free for work or navigation. Flashlights in multiple sizes for different use cases. Rechargeable battery packs in standard sizes that cover the batteries most of your equipment uses. High-capacity power banks for keeping phones and essential devices charged during an outage. And heavy-duty extension cords rated for outdoor or high-draw use. The investment required to build a solid emergency lighting and power kit is genuinely modest. A complete household setup covering lighting, charging, and basic device power can be put together for well under $200 if you shop thoughtfully. The difference that kit makes during a multi-day outage is not a small comfort improvement. It is the difference between being able to function and being significantly compromised in a situation that is already stressful. Consider the scenario for a moment. It is winter. The power goes out at 6 in the evening and does not come back for 3 days. Your family needs light to move around safely, a way to keep phones charged so you can monitor emergency alerts and communicate, and the ability to run a few essential items at least temporarily. Without the gear to handle that, those 3 days are significantly harder than they need to be. With the right setup in place, they are an inconvenience instead of a crisis. That distinction between an inconvenience and a crisis is exactly what preparedness is designed to create. And the equipment required to make that distinction for your household costs less than most people spend on a month of streaming subscriptions. One additional item worth mentioning in this category: if anyone in your household uses medical equipment that requires power, including a CPAP machine, a nebulizer, or anything similar, get a dedicated power backup solution for that equipment specifically. That is not optional preparedness. That is essential care. Emergency lighting and power is one of the fastest categories to put together and one of the highest impact items per dollar on this entire list. Take care of it before March 15th. Item 5. Tools, hardware, and fasteners. Metal-based consumer products sit at the sharp end of any trade policy shift. When raw material costs for steel, aluminum, and alloys move upward, every downstream consumer product moves with them. That means drill bits, nails, socket sets, brackets, and every small metal item in the hardware aisle is heading for a price increase. The signal on this is already visible in commodity market data. What to consider before March 15th. Hammers, pliers, and wrenches to close gaps in your current toolkit. Drill bits and saw blades in the sizes you use most. Screws, nuts, bolts, and washers in your most frequently used sizes. A pry bar for demolition and emergency work. Measuring tools, and outdoor garden tools including shovels, rakes, and hand pruners. Tools are one of the best stores of value in preparedness. They do not expire. They do not degrade on a shelf. Whether you need them for home maintenance, emergency repairs, or building out a garden space or shelter component, a solid toolkit pays dividends across every scenario you can imagine. Item 6. Home heating, cooling, and insulation supplies. Energy costs climb every single winter, and for 2026, the pressure is more acute than it has been in recent years. Manufacturers across the home, energy, and insulation category have already signaled price increases rolling into this year. Layer in grid strain from extreme weather, and you have a category worth addressing quickly. What to grab before March 15th? Weather stripping for exterior doors and windows where conditioned air is escaping, window insulation film kits that cut heat loss significantly in older windows, a space heater as a zone heating backup for when your main system is under load or fails, thermal curtains that create a passive insulation layer against cold glass surfaces, fans and air circulators for efficient air movement without heavy HVAC draw, pipe insulation to protect vulnerable plumbing during cold spells, and a programmable thermostat if you are still using a manual unit. Every item in this category does double work simultaneously. It reduces your utility costs right now, and it improves your home's resilience during outages or extreme weather. That combination of immediate financial return and preparedness value is genuinely rare. Most preparedness purchases only pay off when something goes wrong. These purchases pay off every single month on your utility bill, and they pay off again every time the grid gets stressed. The upfront cost is low. The returns are immediate. This is one of the most efficient categories on the entire list. Item 7. Solar equipment and backup power components. If there is one category on this entire list where waiting consistently costs you money, it is this one. Lithium prices, metal costs, and the electronic supply chains that produce solar and battery products are all under real pressure in 2026. Even modest policy shifts can trigger meaningful price movement on solar panels, inverters, charge controllers, battery banks, portable power stations, wiring, connectors, and breaker components. Here is some important context on the pricing history of this category. The cost of entry-level and mid-range solar and battery equipment has generally trended downward over the past decade. Portable power stations that cost $800 5 years ago can be found for $300 today. That trend has been one of the best things to happen for preparedness budgets, but that trend is now under real threat from current supply chain conditions and trade policy changes. The floor may be moving upward in 2026 in ways that have not been seen in several years. If you are planning to benefit from continued price declines in this category, that calculation needs to be updated. What does this mean practically? If you have been thinking about expanding your existing solar setup, adding a second battery bank, upgrading your charge controller, or picking up additional panels for your current system, the window to do that at current prices is narrowing fast. Act before March 15th. If you have not yet invested in a portable power station for emergency use, now is the time to make that happen. These units give you the ability to run lights, charge devices, power small medical equipment, and extend refrigerator function for a limited window during an outage. The utility they provide in an emergency is difficult to overstate, and the price point for entry-level units is currently still accessible. For households that are just starting with backup power, a practical starting point is a portable power station in the 500 to 1,000 watt-hour range paired with a 100-watt solar panel for recharging. That combination covers most of your critical daily needs during an extended outage without requiring any permanent installation or electrical work. For households that already have a basic backup power setup, the next step is additional battery capacity. A second or third battery bank dramatically extends your operational window during a grid outage. More stored energy means more options. This is consistently the category on this list, where the gap between acting now and acting later is the largest in dollar terms. Do not leave that gap open any longer than you have to. Item 8. Household essentials and cleaning supplies. This is the least glamorous category on this list, and probably the most consistently underestimated. Household cleaning and personal care products carry some of the highest import dependency of anything in your home. Detergents, dish soap, disinfectants, trash bags, sponges, and paper goods are predominantly manufactured overseas or rely heavily on imported inputs. They are consistently among the first categories to see price spikes or availability tightening when supply chains come under pressure. What to stock up on? Laundry detergent in larger format, sizes that give you better cost per load, dish soap, multi-purpose disinfectant cleaners, trash bags in the sizes you use most, sponges and scrubbers, and paper goods including paper towels and toilet paper. These items are inexpensive, store well in compact spaces, and you will use absolutely everything you buy. There is no waste risk here. And running out of basic cleaning and hygiene supplies during a disruption creates compounding problems fast. It starts as a small inconvenience and escalates into a genuine health and sanitation concern when resupply is not straightforward. Aim for a 3-month supply of the basics. The upfront cost is minimal. The return on that small investment during any disruption is immediate. Now, let us pull back and look at the full picture. 2026 is not a standard economic environment. Between trade policy shifts, manufacturing constraints, global supply volatility, and ongoing grid pressure, the cost and availability of everyday goods is less predictable than it has been in a very long time. None of that is a reason to panic, but all of it is a reason to act with intention before the wider market reacts. Preparedness is not a fear response. It is a foresight response. When you position yourself ahead of price increases and supply constraints, you gain something that cannot be purchased after the fact: options. You avoid premium prices. You avoid empty shelves. You avoid the stress of scrambling for basics, while everyone around you is doing exactly that. Every item you have stocked today is one fewer problem you are solving under pressure tomorrow. That is the logic of preparedness. It is as simple as it gets. You do not need to clear all 8 categories before March 15th. Pick the one that represents your biggest gap right now and start there. Move through the list at a pace that works for you. Progress is what matters. If this was helpful, drop a comment and let me know which category you are starting with.